Virginia.
Virginia resolution.
Ah. So now we're getting somewhere. So you're saying Jackson is a states' rights supporter, but when South Carolina tries to nullify a tariff, Jackson gets mad. That's too far. Too much states' rights. Go ahead. Back to you.
Is that why he wasn't walking controversy? Because of saying he was for states' rights, but then he was against it?
No, he's for states' rights, but he doesn't believe we need to go so far on the states' rights spectrum that states can just cancel whatever they want.
Oh, the scale.
Yes, the scale. Yes, there's a reason why these things are on slides. Because they matter. Yes, ma'am, and then yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if this directly relates to it, but in the notes from the 4th, we have Senator Robert Hayne who advocates for it, and he says pretty much, this will be seen, Mr. President, that the South Carolina Doctrine of Nullification is a Jeffersonian Republic Doctrine of 1798. Pretty much he's saying that Jefferson is okay with the states having their own rights, but he again mentioned the spectrum. He doesn't want them to go too far with it. He doesn't want them to take so much advantage of it to the point where it's the government doesn't have its own authority, but now it's more of the states. I don't know how to put that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That when we see what is South Carolina trying to nullify? A tariff. There we go. Right? Are they successful? No. Because Jackson threatens to hang Calhoun. Jackson threatens to send the military. Who gets involved to broker a compromise? Clay. Clay brokers his compromise where South Carolina gets the tariff lowered every year for 10 years. Jackson gets the force bill, which allows him to use force, if this comes up again, to force southern states to pay the tariff. But it demonstrates this huge conflict between states' rights and federal authority. That's the reason that's the prompt for our quiz today. The reason that was the question for class last Thursday. So, is Jackson a states' rights supporter? Yes, very much so. Does he believe in nullification? No, because that's too far. Because at that point, you don't have a union at all. So Jackson puts union first at the expense of nullification. I was talking about the spectrum. You can be a states' rights supporter, a strict interpreter of the Constitution, without believing all the way to nullification. So the only issue for today's conversation is the bank. Let's try to restart our class and hit the ground running again. The big issue is the way in which Jackson kills the bank in his second term. Now, just for some dates, some context, which I'll get to in a second. For understanding of the bank is kind of hard for high schoolers to understand. The bank serves two functions that are beneficial. The first is loans. Making money available so people and businesses and states can borrow money for projects, for factories, for jobs, for whatever. So here is Brett. He wants to pave a private road. He needs to borrow some money. Sure, borrow some money from the Bank of the United States. Here's Josue. He wants to open a factory. Here, borrow some money. Here's Luis. He wants to buy a bunch of land out west. Sure, here, borrow some money. So the thing that's kind of easy to understand is the bank holds about $10 million in government money, and they use that money to make loans to people and businesses. Now, what are the two things that the government's getting money for? Why does the government have money? Where is the government bringing money in from? Two things. Tariffs, that's the big one. And the bigger one, no taxes yet necessarily. Nope.
Trade.
Nope. Western land sales. All that land we've bought from France, Louisiana, Prairie, all this frontier land, they're selling that land, and that money's in the government funds. So the first thing the bank does, which is beneficial, is it allows for loans. Pretty straightforward. We're pretty clear there. Now, in today's world, in 2018 America, if I went to the bank today after work and I said I need to borrow $100,000, $100,000, would the bank let me? Yeah, they would. My credit score is good. I pay all my bills on time. I own a home. I don't have $100,000, but they'd give it to me and I'd pay it back once a month for the next however long it was, and then there we go. Now, if Luis went and asked for $100,000, what would the bank say? Absolutely not. Nothing against Luis. He's a very nice man. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have strong credit. He doesn't have a 20-year history of paying his bills on time. He doesn't have income. He doesn't have what's called collateral or other things that are worth money, like a home or a car or other things. Agreed? He doesn't own anything. Right? At this point, he's barely even holding on to his dignity. And even that's questionable at times. So the moral of the story is the bank does that. The bank allows for people to borrow money who should borrow money. People who shouldn't borrow money to probably not borrow money. The second thing they do is the bank helps control all the other state and local banks that operate beneath it. State and local banks that operate beneath it by making sure that they're not giving out money to the Luis Bernals of the world. To the people that shouldn't be borrowing money. To the people that don't have a way to pay that money back. To the businesses that are going to lose the money anyway. So by keeping the financial system regulated, you keep controlling for inflation, you control for credit, you control for... you can make sure that everything else is stable. This creates stability. The bank itself has 30 branches in the U.S., and it's the state banks that are actually printing paper money. The bank, the national bank, the national government, does not print any paper money yet. They only deal in hard currency, hard money. They what's called coin. They coin a small supply of hard money. What does hard money mean? Gold, basically, and at other times in history, silver. So, is this hard money? No. No, this is soft money. This is what is this worth? Nope. This is worth what you can get for it. That's it. This is not. I cannot trade this in for $1 worth of gold. I cannot give this to the government and get gold. At some points in history, you could. That's the way it's supposed to work. At the beginning of currency, was for every dollar printed, there's $1 worth of gold in the Federal Reserve. It doesn't happen anymore because that would require too much gold. Much gold doesn't even exist. So now that's not worth anything. It's not backed by any gold. It's just soft money. At the time, all the government does is coin hard money. Who knows the other word for hard money from the chapter? It's an S word. Good. Specie.
I don't know.
Specie. Hard currency. Cool. So what the federal government does is it loans out this hard money. With this hard money, the state and local banks will print paper money to give loans and businesses and the like. All of America's paper banknotes, that's a paper banknote I just showed you. Those are the ones that finance land purchase. If you want to buy land, you don't have to do it with specie. You can do it with soft money. Businesses, purchases, economic growth, all of that, the money that's actually being traded hands in America is all paper money that comes off of these private banks or state banks. But they're all being regulated by the Bank of the United States. And sometimes these state banks loan out too much money. They do their own thing. But in general, when the Bank of the United States exists, it exists to make sure that the banks are being legit. So the bank's also really controversial. The first reason the bank is controversial, people blame the bank for the Panic of 1819. When the bank realized that there was a lot of crappy loans out, a lot of Luis Bernals had borrowed money. So the bank realized, I got to make them pay that money back quick, because we need to make sure that we don't have too much money that's extended out. The Luis Bernals of the world couldn't pay back that money. Banks failed, Panic of 1819. So a lot of people blame the bank for extending too much credit and then calling it in too quickly. Some people argue the bank is an unconstitutional financial monopoly that's giving too much power, too much wealth, too much authority to the people that are already rich. Now, a question for you that I hope you can answer better than first period. Is the bank constitutional? Yes. Says who? True. But at this point it's been decided. Says Marshall. In what court case? McCullough versus Maryland. Thank you. The one person out of 68 that had that answer. Thank you. McCullough, Maryland, Marshall rules. Maryland, you can't tax the bank. It doesn't work that way. And the bank is constitutional. So this has been settled. And the guy in charge of the bank, his name is Nicholas Biddle. He's kind of an asshole. He's really good at his job. The bank's functioning very well. But he's very arrogant. He's very cocky. He's very vain. He's seen as very aristocratic. He is known to have said, Andrew Jackson may be president, but I'm the most powerful man in America. Which, if you know anything about Andrew Jackson, that's going to really piss him off. Because Andrew Jackson likes power and authority and the like. So the bank is controversial because, for the most part, people don't understand it. What kind of people support Jackson? The common man. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be a theme all day in this class. The common man is stupid. Facts. Regular people are dumb. And people don't like what they don't understand. It's true. People are like, oh, that bank? No, that doesn't benefit me. Yes, it does, by establishing stability in the financial system, by allowing you to borrow money. But people, as more stupidity integrates the American political system because of this universal male suffrage, we see more stupid ideas. Like getting rid of a bank because it benefits the rich people, and then all of a sudden the economy takes a dump for the next 50 years. Okay, what do I know? Moral of the story, the common man doesn't see the bank as useful, even though the bank provides a very necessary service. So Jackson hates the bank. Jackson hates the bank. Now, I want to put some important dates up here because it's going to help us get our minds around it. The bank expires in 1836. Any questions there? Why does it expire in 1836? Yeah, it's a 20-year term. And the bank was rechartered in 1816, right after the War of 1812. Because after the war, there's a lot of inflation, a lot of economic turmoil, and Madison realizes we need a bank to regulate this. Let's put that bank back into play. So the bank's going to expire in 1836. Clay, we know Clay. Does Clay like the bank? Yeah, American system. The bank is basically the foundational part of that. Webster, he's in the Northeast. He's kind of a national power type Republican. Will he like the bank? Yes. And Biddle's in charge of the bank. He likes the bank. They're worried about the bank's future. And they come up with a brilliant plan that is, of course, not brilliant. Because it backfires on Henry Clay. Let me explain to you the plan before you take any notes at all. So, 1832. 4 years early, these guys convinced Congress that we should recharter the bank. Let's do it 4 years early. Is there any real benefit to doing it 4 years early? Do they need to do it 4 years early? No. What else happens in 1832? There's a presidential election. Jackson is running for re-election. Is Jackson popular?
Yes.
Jackson's super popular. Who's Jackson running against? Henry Clay. So you guys already know how this election ends because, of course, Clay never becomes president because he never dies but also never wins. So their thinking here is if we can make this election about the bank, we'll make Jackson look bad. It's a great idea. No, it's a terrible idea. Yes? I'll get that. We're going to make this election a single issue election. We're not going to focus on all of Jackson's past accomplishments, which are obviously making him very popular. We're not going to focus on Jackson getting rid of the Indians like he promised, because that makes him popular. We're not going to focus on Jackson, the war hero, that makes him popular. We're going to make the whole issue about the bank, and the bank only. So they get Congress to recharter it 4 years early, and now Jackson has a decision. Because Congress passes a law, but who has to sign the law? President. So their thinking is we're going to make sure that Jackson has a hard choice. Either he approves the bank and pisses off all his common man supporters who don't like the bank, or he vetoes, the other option, if he doesn't like the law, he can veto the law. He can veto the bank, and their thinking is he's going to piss off all the business class who likes the bank. So their thinking is we're going to split Jackson's supporters over this bank issue. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Excellent. So they do. And Jackson says, I don't care if it costs me the election, it doesn't matter to me. I don't like the bank. My ideology says F the bank. I'm vetoing the bank. Now, what percentage of Congress do you need to pass a law? 50% plus 1. So all you need to pass a law is one vote over the majority, over half. You with me so far? And then that goes to the president. If the president says yes, what happens? Becomes a law. Done. If the president says no, is it dead forever? No. It goes back to Congress, and they have a choice. If they can get a 2/3 majority, they can override his veto. So they can get 2/3 of Congress to agree that it's a good law. They don't need the president's signature. Now, it's impossible to get 2/3 of Congress to agree on anything. I couldn't get 2/3 of you guys in this room to agree on what to have for lunch. Seriously, look around the room. Could you agree with 2/3 of the room?
Pineapple on pizza.
Pineapple pizza?
See, this is the problem. We're now arguing about pineapple pizza. So, moral of the story, it goes to Jackson. Jackson vetoes it. Is the bank dead? No, not yet. But it goes back to Congress for a 2/3 majority. They don't get that. So the whole thinking here is we're going to make Jackson look bad to somebody in society. That's the thinking. So we're going to get our bank chartered, yes, and we're going to make Jackson look bad. Except Jackson says, "How you thought?" No. No. Jackson says, "Nope, vetoing it. I don't care if it costs me the election. It doesn't matter to me. I don't like the bank. I think it's unconstitutional." He thinks the bank's unconstitutional. It's a violation of states' rights, and the bank itself is dangerous to people's liberties. Jackson thinks the bank is an agency that allows the rich to get rich off of speculation of buying land and selling land and using loans. And the bank cheats the honest type of farmers who support him. Yes, ma'am?
So pretty much just a petty way to make his life hard.
Yes, and protect their beautiful bank. Yeah, exactly. Congress is unable to override the veto. They don't have this extra 2/3 to vote over. But still, it's only 1832. The bank won't actually die until the first charter expires in 1836, so it's still going to live for 4 years. So I want you to read both arguments. I have Jackson's argument for why he vetoed it, very important. He'll tell you why he's against the bank. And then I have Webster in Congress trying to get this override majority, trying to get this 2/3 vote back. So you're just going to tell me both. What is Jackson's justification? What is Webster's argument in favor of the bank? We're a little behind, which happens. I'll give you 6 to read them both, and we'll go from there. 6 minutes, go. text and drive your knowledge. What are their arguments for? What are their arguments against? My last dollar away. All right, so
You can buy.
you can't buy an answer to that second question, can you? Look, the government doesn't run that. The government gives the bank permission to exist. Keep reading. You think that's the argument against it? I'm going to show you why that was wrong.
What does he mean by great public?
All like the infrastructure, the big public projects, like the canals, the roads, all that stuff. One minute. All right. So, looking at Jackson's arguments, how and why is Jackson anti-bank? How does he justify vetoing the extension of the bank? Almost like go for it. Nice and loud for everybody here. What do you mean it?
One that stuck out to me was that it makes the rich richer and the potent more powerful.
Okay, so it allows for the rich to get richer and the powerful to get more powerful. That's reasonable. Hilda, what else?
Well, that's what out, then it later says how the humble members of society, the farmers, mechanics, and laborers, who have neither the time nor the means of securing like favors to themselves, have a right to complain of the injustice of their government. So it's basically saying it's only helping the rich and not the
Yeah,
poor.
the everyday people don't see any benefit from this. The line that I like the most in his argument is, there are no necessary evils in government. I like that. Who's ever heard that phrase, it's a necessary evil? What does that mean?
Like lowering stress and obviously necessary.
Yeah. Like homework. Who thinks homework's evil? Who agrees that at least to an extent homework is necessary, at least in this class? Yeah. No? Homework's a necessary evil. It's evil, and it's necessary. But Jackson is very, very black and white. If it's evil, it's not necessary. If it doesn't benefit people, it's not necessary. So right there, he's disagreeing with Marshall, because Marshall in McCullough versus Maryland argued the bank is necessary and proper. That's why we're going to use the elastic clause to allow it to exist. But if it's not necessary, we're not going to do it. Cancel. Now, why is what's Webster's argument in favor of the bank? Yes, Chavez, I like it, and then I'll go to somebody else. Talk to me.
Basically says that Jackson states that banks are safest under private management, and that government banks are among the most dangerous of all inventions.
Uh-huh.
So that's what he's saying that Jackson is saying.
Yeah.
And then he says that for this purpose, the message neighbors to create injustices and prejudices. So basically saying that Jackson isn't really trying to solve anything, he just wants to get what possible.
Sure.
And cause tension.
Yeah, that's not wrong. Luis, add to that.
He's basically saying,
Louder.
He's saying that the bank promotes public interest.
Yeah. The bank promotes public projects, public interest. People like the bank. So what the hell's the problem? So now we're going to figure out how this is going to play out in public opinion via 3 different political cartoons. So turn your page. I'm asking you the same question for all 3 of them. Oh, other question before that. Despite Jackson killing the bank with a veto, the bank isn't dead. Why? Because it still exists for 4 more years. It has till 1836 to be dead. So let's look at 3 cartoons that help tell a story about like this perception of Jackson versus the bank. Here's your first. Note these badass outfits. That's how I like the box. He does not skip leg day. Not skip leg day at all. So I'm sorry the cartoon doesn't look that great. I apologize. It's an old cartoon. It looks better in your notes actually. Bless you. So here I have. Is it Jackson? Who do you think this is?
Clay.
It's not Clay.
Webster.
No, not Webster.
Calhoun.
Have we talked about Calhoun with the bank yet?
Biddle.
Biddle. Good job. The guy in charge of the bank. How do these people look?
Rich.
You guys agree? Rich? Yeah.
Well fed.
Well fed. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Eating a soy stable. Back here we have military veterans, and then the poor. So take 30 seconds with your partner. How does this cartoon portray? My question is, what role does Jackson play in defeating the bank, and how is the bank depicted in these and the next couple cartoons? 30 seconds, talk about it. What do you got?
There's only a few rich people.
Yeah, go deeper than that. Deeper than that. We're talking superficially.
So it benefits the majority.
Or seeing
There's a poor hero.
All right. So according to this cartoon, what is the big role of Jackson in the play? Brett, I heard some good stuff out of you. Talk to us, Mr. Strickland.
I was saying that the cartoon depicts Jefferson as
Who the hell's Jefferson?
Jackson as
He's dead.
as the main reason that the bank was defeated.
Okay.
Because he's literally out there fighting.
Yeah, Jackson's on the ground level doing the fighting. Okay. What else is important in this cartoon? Your hand was up. Talk to me.
You can see that there's clearly a division between upper class and lower class and like defense inside.
Okay. Who is Jackson rep? Go ahead.
Oh, his people are behind him.
Yeah. That this isn't just an issue of Jackson versus the bank. This is an issue of everyday people versus the rich. People that are like small farmers and military veterans are of course used here on purpose. And they're not just fighting the bank, they're fighting the rich upper classes to have their say in society. Yes, Santos.
So could this sort of debate over over rechartering the bank also be used as like an event to demonstrate widening like wealth gaps?
Absolutely widening wealth gaps. Because even in areas that are benefiting from the bank, we have that new wage class, that new working class. Who do they vote for? Even remember the old Democratic Republicans only had power in the South and the West? The new Democrats have power in the North as well because of this laboring class. Good, absolutely can show that. Even what they're drinking shows class divide. What are they drinking? Port. Fancy rich person old aged wine. What are they drinking? Frontier whiskey. So even what they're drinking demonstrates a class divide between poor and rich. Interesting. That'll play a role later. All right. So it demonstrates it's not just Jackson or the bank, it's rich versus poor, everyday people against the elites. It just shows who's who. Yeah, there's Webster. They call, Bully Nick and Old Hickory. Good. Next one's here. Have the same conversation. What's depicted here? How is Jackson's conflict against the bank depicted? Take a minute to talk about it. Go for it.
Accidentally passed it for Congress.
Probably like the elites or people who are in favor of the bank.
In favor?
In favor of the bank. Because right now the conflict is saying that he's fighting against the bank.
Oh, yeah.
I would actually on
Looks British to me.
All right. So in the context of this cartoon, how is Jackson depicted? How is the conflict depicted? Let me start with Ruby. Go for it.
One thing they were kind of discussing is that obviously snakes seem kind of like as poisonous or bad.
Snakes are obviously usually a negative connotation. Agreed.
So here's pretty much saying like, oh, like Jack's over, he's defeating people like Clay, Calhoun, Webster, and all of those. Like they're the issue. That's why they're being referred to as monsters. Because like.
Yeah, it's a snake and it says monster in the heading, so obviously the bank is looked at as. I dig that. How do all the bank managers look? Maybe that's like the different 30 bank managers, all the different branches of the bank. They all look snakish. They all have nice fancy hats on. Interesting, interesting. What is Jackson using as his weapon? The veto. Yeah, he's using the veto. And in this case, is the veto looked at as a weapon for good or a weapon for evil? Yeah. And he's the one that's fighting this monster out there again, on the ground. He's the underdog, fighting this huge challenge of the bank that's become such a grown, huge, aggressive monster. Again, Jackson's depicted as the hero of the people, fighting for their needs, fighting for their wants. And the last one isn't even one that's on your notes, so don't worry about it. But the same idea. Here Jackson is in the bank building, toppling the bank, chasing out the bankers, who are depicted like... Anybody? He's chasing out the bankers, knocking down the actual bank building with this thunder. I don't even know what these things are. It's like old school Batman cartoon. Right? They look like thieves, burglars, devils, and rats. Right? All these like banknotes just written on paper mean the downfall of Mother Bank. Again, depicting Jackson as a hero of the people. So turn your page. Big picture, when Jackson vetoes the bank, it really surprises the financial community. It surprises the business class. It surprises the banking class. It surprises Biddle. It surprises Clay. It surprises Webster, because they're not in touch at all with actual public opinion. In their circles, the bank's very popular. In real American everyday life, the bank is not popular. Jackson's veto is very surprising to the business class, but it's very, very, very popular in the actual everyday people that support Jackson. Jackson focuses on that for the election of 1832. Jackson crushes Clay. Sorry, Clay. Clay's whole idea was to make the election about the bank, and then that backfired. Check it out. Looking at the map, was Jackson's bank veto a good move for Jackson or a bad move for Jackson? Huge, great move. Does he win by a little or a lot? A ton. So Jackson looks at this and says, connecting the dots, they elected me because I vetoed the bank. Therefore, I should continue my war on the bank. Because I made the issue, they made the issue with the election about the bank, I vetoed the bank, I won by a ton, America agrees with me, the bank is evil. Sorry, Clay. So now Clay is a 0 for 2. All right, take a minute with your partner. What else can be learned or questioned or understood from this election map? What else stands out? 1 minute, chat it out, go. There's a couple other things I want you guys to notice.
He's still wondering what is there. He's still wondering
So he got his hometown.
What else can be learned or questioned from the election map? Next one, huge.
He's covering both the South and
Everybody votes for that. All right. So, just for understanding of this new Democratic Party, Christoph, why is Jackson able to win these northern states that are so big?
Because it always outnumbers the common people.
Who are these? Who is this new group of common people? You're right. Go a little deeper.
What do you mean?
Like what? Give me a little more descriptive name for this working class. We're talking about them for the market revolution. You're right.
All the people work in factories?
Yeah, this new wage labor class. Who is the person that started organizing that part of the new Democratic Party? Who's from up in New York that's working to get these votes for the Democrats? Because keep in mind, in Jefferson's day, like these are areas that the old Democratic Republicans didn't win. Who's the guy? I emphasized him in depth on Thursday in class. Take a shot. Who's this character in the Democratic Party who's working to get these working class votes to vote Democrat?
Seattle.
Van Buren.
Oh, it's Van Buren.
Yeah, Van Buren, right? He's from New York. He's a politician. He's the guy working for this part. Now, why does Jackson win the rest of this? Because of the bank veto. The common man, exactly. Why does he lose Kentucky? That's Clay's home state. Why does he lose South Carolina? Because nullification. Yeah, because he threatened to go to war with South Carolina 1 year prior. He threatened to hang their Senator John Calhoun from a tree. So South Carolina stays salty at the Democratic Party, but they still vote Democrat. Just a different Democrat. Because they're still a party of states' rights. They're still a party that identifies with the Democratic Party. They just hate Jackson. So a lot can be learned. Sorry, Clay. Your little banking maneuver backfires badly. Not a little bit, a lot of bit. So of course Jackson has this trait of overkill. Of doing something and then going too far. Jackson takes his election win as, like I just told you, a mandate. That the American people have spoken. They agree with me. The bank is evil. Now, is the bank dead yet? No. It'll be dead in 4 years. Good. Jackson says that's not good enough. I want it dead now. Can he kill it right now? No. Nope. But what he can do is take all of the federal money, that $10 million we talked about, take all that money out of the bank and put it in state banks that are loyal to him, or regional banks that are loyal to him, that are not the national bank. What's a bank without money? It's a building. So by removing all the federal funds from the bank, you've made the bank dead before it was actually going to die. Moving these funds to 23 different state or local banks. Jackson's opponents at this point argue he's gone too far. He's made this petty and personal and spiteful and unnecessary. Even in his own cabinet, his own advisors, this is very unpopular. People who thought that he was well within his rights to veto the bank say he's gone way too far now. Vetoing it was cool, that's constitutional, that's normal, but going so far as to pull all the money out and put it in banks that are loyal to you is overstepping your authority. He's gone too far. In a sense, this move here kills Clay's American system. So maybe, just maybe, there's some other ulterior motives there. Because how do you pay for national government-funded infrastructure with no money? How do you collect all these tariffs and pay for all these projects with no money? How do you have a bank with no money? So Clay's three-part American system, infrastructure, can't do that without any money. Tariffs, there's no bank to put them in. And the bank, there's no bank. So in a sense, this single move kills Clay's American system. I know. These local or state banks are often called pet banks because they're loyal to him, like a pet would be. Or wildcat banks because they are unregulated. There's no control over who they can give this money to. So we're going to give all this money to the state banks. They're going to loan this money to who? Whoever they want. There's way less regulation over who can get money. My favorite part.
Oh. Wait.
Oh, I say, oh, we get it. You're rich. Stop flexing. Wait, what is it? My favorite part of the whole thing is Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill. The president most responsible for killing the national bank is now on national money.
Get it, you're rich.
Let me see.
So, why is this ironic? Because Jackson's killing of the bank will keep passing it back.
Go, Ruby.
Hey. Watch your mouth. Gee, it's just money. What are you worried about? You said you were rich. No, I'm not. So, shouldn't have got it out. So, moral of the story, we go without a national bank for the next 80 years. The longest time in American history without actual regulation of the economic system because Jackson kills the bank and now he's on the 20. We're like, cool, yeah. Best part, a couple years ago, there was this movement to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill and get rid of Jackson because Jackson is a racist who killed Native Americans and killed the bank. And all these conservatives were like so pissed off. How dare you take Andrew Jackson off of the money, all the things he did for this country. But yet none of them have any real understanding of the real irony and hilariousness that as a mini historian, the joy this brings me. Yes, sir.
So you know how the bank renews in 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Is that why he's on the $20 bill?
No. No, it's just random.
I wonder how they use Indigenous people day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're also thrilled on Indigenous People Day, absolutely. So,
That's today. Please
that is today.
celebrate.
Indigenous people forever, Columbus can go to hell. So Jackson gets all the federal money out. So now we have state and local, like city banks, Bank of DeSoto, Delaware Bridge Bank, Granite Bank, Manchester Bank, International Bank, Western Exchange Bank, Merchants. What?
That Western Exchange Bank, like that dollar, if I were to have it,
It's only worth money if you take it to the Western Exchange Bank.
no, it's not worth like right now.
Right now, if you had it, it would be worth a lot of money. Yeah, more than that 20 you just gave away. Yes.
So our economy was sort of decentralized, like.
There's a really good question being asked, and 2/3 of you had no idea what the question was. Jose, what did you just ask? It's a really good question. Ask it again.
So was our economy sort of decentralized, like currency-wise?
It's a great question. Benjamin, what question did you just ask? He's asked it twice now, and I said it was a really good question. Let's all listen to the question. You're playing with his hair. Aljanae, what question did you just ask? Good day today, third period. You guys are really focused in and killing it. Ask it again, Santos, I apologize.
Was sort of our economy decentralized when it comes to currency?
Absolutely. Our economy now is the anti-Clay's American system where everybody's kind of just doing their own thing again. Minding their own business, hoping for the best. Now who's regulating this money?
No.
Nobody! Nobody, that's the point. The agricultural bank, this action kills the bank. Without the bank, our entire economy goes unregulated for 80 years. In what's called the boom and bust cycle. Up, panic. Up, panic. Up, panic. What is every panic in American financial history caused by? Overextension of something. 1819, overextension of Western land. 1837, overextension of credit because the banks have no regulation. 1877, overextension of railroads. When there's no regulation, things get overextended. People will never regulate themselves banking-wise properly because people are stupid. Here's my point. We have little panics because our economy is little. As our country gets bigger, there's 37. Boom, done. Big one. Big drop. 57, the biggest drop. Civil War, we're doing really well. 77, big drop. 96, big drop. Great Depression, big drop. So it's important we understand that without a bank to regulate these things, we have no control of the financial system. So this banking action is what really gives us our new party, the Whigs. So this anti-Jackson coalition, who were they before this? They had another name. No, after that. National Republicans. Remember we had Feds and Democratic Republicans, yes? When did they die?
After Adams.
After War of 1812. 1814 for the Hartford Convention. These guys, what do they do with their party? They kind of go into the middle, yes? Banking policies and tariff policies. And then they're going to split, so kind of a middle party for the era of good feelings, the Democratic Republicans. And they're going to split back out to the states' rights Jackson guys, which would be Jackson Democrats. And they were the National Republicans for a little bit. Because the Democratic Republican Party split and they become the Whigs and they become the Democrats. They're very Federalist-esque. They're supported by ex-Federalists like John Marshall. They're supported by these Clay Republicans I'm talking about that are more for pro-government expansion, pro-tariff, pro-bank, pro-federal government. They're supported by these bigger farmers in the West and the South, the big, richer farmers. And they're supported by these northern industrialists, the factory owners, this big industrial class. And once we have this big panic of 1837 that I'll talk about in just a minute, they get very popular because anytime there's a big financial panic, Americans always go to the other party. Every time. Every time there's a financial panic, we go to the other party to solve it. Because we figure you caused it, somebody else can fix it. Then they're strongly opposed to King Andrew, is what they're going to start calling him. Now go back to period 2 and 3. Who were the Whigs in British political history? Remember the Whigs and Tories? Whigs and Tories. Who are the Whigs? Yes, they're against the British monarchy. They want more power in the British legislature, less power in the monarchy. So these Whigs, they're going to pick this name on purpose. Because they, like the British Whigs, want less power in the monarchy. Who's the monarch in this conversation? Jackson. And more power in the legislature. Clay, Webster, these people. So we go from Federalists and Democratic Republicans to this era of good feelings. We split out to National and Democratic Republicans and eventually Democrats and Whigs. So these guys look a lot like these guys. And these guys look a lot like these guys. So here's what they are. I'm going to give you a whole minute with your partner to start identifying some differences politically, economically, support-wise. Who are they? Just take one. See what looks familiar from our first party system. See what maybe looks new from our first party system. What are some of the similarities and differences as you start to be able to answer that essay prompt? Yes? Yeah. Shout it out. Go, hurry. The question of the day.
You said the wigs are mostly conservative. Wigs believe in national power, so they support the bank.
Pro-bank?
Urban public. They support
Leave her alone. So, what about this? What about this looks like the first party system? What about this is similar to federalist and republic? Go ahead.
National power?
Yeah, they like national power and they don't. They want state authority. Very similar. Very, very similar. Support for the bank? No bank? Is that similar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Loose interpretation, strict interpretation? That's similar. How about regionally? Were the Whigs and Federalists both mostly in New England? Yeah. Were the Democrats earlier, or the Republicans more so the party of immigrants? Yeah. Right? These are the ones who did the Alien Sedition Acts. So there's a lot of similarities. The only big difference, to answer your thesis statement for the day, is the northern working class plays a huge role, whereas that didn't really exist as much in the first era. Because of the market revolution, because of this new influx of immigrants, old immigration, the Irish, the Germans, because of this new working class, that's only a new working class because of the market revolution, they have a huge base of support there. And unlike the Federalists, they're going to try really hard to attract a broader scope of people, not just the rich, but also make some social appeals, some anti-immigrant appeals, some religious appeals as well that aren't just based on financial policies. Those are the big differences. Now, I know I say this a lot, but if I made a ranking of my top 5 favorite cartoons of all time, this would for sure be in the top 3. So there's a reason it's so big on your page, and the rest one's pretty small. So take 2, please, with your partner. I'm asking you pretty specifically. It's a good one. Pretty specifically, I want you to talk about it. What objections to Jackson's use of power does this cartoon make? What specific presidential actions can you associate with the objections? So take 2. What are the things you identify? What are the things you notice? What about Jackson can we learn or review just from this cartoon? 2 minutes, go. Chat it out. Ah, that's important. That's important.
For the veto, obviously.
Really need it? In your stomach? What's wrong? I just give you all ribs. 40 seconds. What's up?
And for second question, it's the bird. And you deal with the bird.
Yep. Yeah, what do you do with the ribs? How about one underneath there? I know, it's a hard one. It's old. 15 seconds, a lot. His whole presidency's up here, basically. Both. I know, I want this framed in my office. So, Louisa, I'm gonna start with you. Louisa, what elements of Jackson's presidency are present? Give me something.
Obviously, we talked about how he's like stepping on the Constitution.
Yeah.
How like I think it's like saying that he didn't care about it, how he just did whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah, that he's a king who's above the Constitution. Give me an example of something he does that maybe is kingly instead of constitutional. Yeah, perfect. That not listening to John Marshall is unconstitutional. Like, you don't get to interpret the law and enforce the law. Jackson doesn't work like that. Good job. Good job, good job. Kelly, what else we got? DeVito. I point this out on purpose. In the last cartoon, how was DeVito looked at as a weapon of good or a weapon of evil?
Weapon of good.
And now, weapon of evil. Interesting. What has he vetoed? The bank, what else?
Internal improvement.
Yeah, the Maysville Road, internal improvements across the board. Good. What else is down here, Brett?
The Constitution.
The Constitution.
And the bank.
The bank.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. How about these kicks? Fresh. Look at those bows.
Like what's that book?
Yeah.
What is that book? Interesting question.
Dad, you can't read
The book, I know it's my job.
The Bible.
No. No. The book is the federal judiciary of the United States. The federal judiciary. So all the legal decisions get entered in the federal record of the judicial system. So what this is implying is he's above the Constitution, he's above Congress, since the bank and internal improvements are passed by Congress, and he's above the judicial branch, Supreme Court. It's a badass cartoon, huh? I showed my first year at this school, I showed this cartoon. It was about 2 years after it was actually published in 1839.
Wow.
And they thought that it depicted Jackson as a good guy because he looks like a king. And I was like, well, I'm glad that we've come so far as an institution. So whose point of view is this? Whig, thank you. Good. No, it's good, thank you. The Whig point of view, anti-Jackson, absolutely. King Andrew I, born to command, implies as well. All right, so let's wrap up to the end of this. But still, is the bank dead? Yeah, it's pretty dead. Is the economy dead yet? No, but Jackson will kill that too. So what Jackson does next is called the specie circular. What is specie? Hard currency. So now, who's there to regulate soft money? Yeah, but are they going to do that? No. So now, because at the very end of his presidency, beginning of 1837, he issues the specie circular, which now says anything you purchase, if it's Western land, needs to be purchased with specie, hard money. Let me show you why that's bad. Slane is a state bank. You with me? Does Slane have any regulations? No. Who will Slane loan money to? Anybody. Hey, Slane, I need to buy 10 plots of land. Then I'm going to sell, and we're both going to get rich. Can I borrow the money? Please? Cool. I didn't have to say please. I borrowed the money from Slane. You guys with me?
Yeah.
I buy 10 plots of land. Let's call it Western Tennessee. So far, so good? Yeah. I'm going to sell a plot to him, a plot to him, a plot to her, a plot to him, a plot to her, and then I'm going to pay you back. We'll be good to go. Until specie circular hits, now I can only sell my land if they have what? Gold. Does he have gold? Does he have gold? Does he have gold? Does she have gold? So now who can I sell my land to?
Me.
The rich. But are the rich trying to move to the west?
No.
So now, do I have any money?
No.
So who gets screwed in this situation? Nope.
Western
Bank.
The bank. Because now I can't pay the bank back. So we took away the one regulation on who got money, and then with a bunch of people bought land, trying to sell land, they can't sell land because of the specie circular. Because he doesn't believe in soft money. He wants hard currency, a strict economy, no inflation. So it's not a bad idea in theory, but it's a terrible time to do it. Yes, sir.
Well, wouldn't that go against like his supporters?
Why?
Like,
Yes, it would. It goes against the whole country.
Yeah.
But does it, in theory, canceling the bank at all goes against the supporters. They just don't realize that. Because the common man is stupid.
Oh no, I mean like the species.
Yeah, 100%. But he doesn't believe, he thinks he's screwing the me of the world. He thinks he's screwing the guy that's buying up a bunch of land to sell it to his supporters. This causes a huge sink in the economy. The Panic of 1837 leads to a 6-year recession. At the same time, cotton prices go down, so the entire southern economy sucks. It's all sorts of bad. And it's not his to deal with, because by now he's out of the White House. By the time it all actually hits and everything happens, Martin Van Buren shows up like, hey, what's up, I'm president. And we're like, yeah, the country's broke. And we're all like, it's your fault, Martin. You suck. Yeah, 100% Obama. 100% Obama shows up at the White House and the economy takes a giant dump all over itself. And everyone's like, what a terrible president. He's like, I just got here. I couldn't have messed it up that fast if I tried. So, not even him. So this is a, we don't have much time left, so I'm going to ask you to focus yourself. A cartoon that depicts our Panic of 1837. No specie payments made here, all bonds paid in specie. How does everybody look? Broke. What's the date?
The great.
4th of July. So even our 4th of July celebration of our country's freedom is marred by sadness. So to big picture characterize Jacksonian democracy, these are all the characteristics of this time and place. What I want you to know is it's a time in which our democracy gets more democratic. But by allowing more voices in the room, you have to acknowledge the fact that not everybody is smart. When there's something to be said for that Federalist/Whig perspective of making sure that the qualified people make decisions. When you elect a common man, and the common man makes decisions for common men, sometimes the common man can backfire on you. It's an era of universal male suffrage, of strict interpretation, but of laissez-faire economics. What does laissez-faire means? Everybody know French? Talk to me. Yeah, laissez-faire means to let be. So no regulation of the economy, let banks regulate themselves. But we've become more democratic, we've become more people-friendly in the process. However, legacy-wise, he does greatly expand the power of the presidency, and he gives us back our two-party system. Now, is it his fault entirely that we have a second two-party system? No. All right, these divisions are already happening over things like the Missouri Compromise, over things like the bank. He just makes the process faster. This is a phenomenal chart, which is blown up in the back if you ever get some time, which shows how political parties have evolved in the U.S. since the beginning of time. As you can see, we dropped down to one party for the era of good feelings. Right? And then we are split, right? There's our current bargain year. 1824, when we elect Quincy Adams. And then we have a very strong Whig versus Democratic Party going forward, which will eventually become Democrats versus Republicans. But we'll get there. They die quick. I'll tell you why. They die about as quick as the Federalists do. They're gone. They're gone by 1852. Yeah, the third Adams gets elected and kills them too. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, they die for the same reason the Federalists do, though. Because they're too narrow in their approach. So look, and it's back there if you want to see it. Check out lunch. I'll look it over with you. Where's it at? That giant one that says all the arrows, says political parties from history. There, I saw it. So, going forward, who are these Democrats? They're very similar to Jefferson's era. Small governments, equal opportunities for all white people, anti-big government, anti-elitism, no benefit to the North, no benefit to banks, and they're most strong in the South and the West, but they also add on this attachment of the working classes in the North. Who are the Whigs? They are just like the Federalists. Powerful and active federal governments, pro-Clay's American system. Something that's kind of new for them is they're very anti-immigrant. Although you could argue with the Alien and Sedition Acts, they'd already been anti-immigrant. anti-crime, anti-immigrant acts, drinking, gambling, prostitution. So the Whigs are going to try to make this like moralistic, puritanical approach to society almost. We'll talk about that on Monday next week. And like the Federalists, they're most strong in New England, but also in upper classes across the country, and also where people are more religious. Because the Whigs are going to, what the Federalists didn't do, the Federalists are strictly political. The Whigs are going to make it a little more about culture and social as well. Is there a second Great Awakening? That's next. The exact same reason. That these Whigs are going to really define this second Great Awakening of purifying society. So here's our election in 1836. You guys already know that Van Buren gets elected. What do you see on the map, though? It's another very divided election. Yeah, it's a little more divided than Jackson. Clay doesn't run.
Huh? Wait, so when was his third?
Don't worry, 1840. Third is 40 and fourth is 44. So, South Carolina is still anti-Jackson because they're not even voting for his vice president. And the country does look quite divided. Does he look as popular as Jackson? No. And here's my cartoon to prove it. Take a minute, talk to your partner. What is this cartoon getting at? 1 minute, quickly. What do is anti-Van Buren? Could be, or just people at the party there. Does it have to be a party necessarily, or just in general? Quincy Adams? Calhoun? Don't worry about it, you don't need it. It's about the throne. All I really want is the throne. He wants the same throne as Jackson. Alright. Rubia, what is the point of view of this cartoon? Yeah, anti-Van Buren. The Van Buren is just using Jackson's popularity to get to the White House. Are they right? Yeah. Yeah. Context, Josue?
Election of 1836.
Good. And the purpose of this cartoon, please, Cortez.
So basically, like, illustrate how Van Buren doesn't really have his own platform.
Yeah, Van Buren doesn't have his own platform. He's just running on the tails of Jackson. Good. So Van Buren wins in 1836. Like I told you, he takes over in 37. Right when he walks in the White House, he has no economy to deal with, and it's not great. He's depicted from the get-go as this super elitist, ugly man who sips his wine with his pinky out. The Whigs start attacking him from day one. They call him Martin Van Ruin, which is kind of messed up. It is clever. That early American politics is quite clever. He's a very unpopular president. Reason one, he's not Jackson. It's hard to follow a legend. And Jackson's got a ton of unpopular policies when we look at him historically, but at the time, Jackson's a really, really popular dude. It's hard to follow that. However, he gets screwed by economic recession, some border conflicts, and the biggest problem he faces is Texas. Texas fights Mexico for their independence. Texas wins their independence. We'll talk about that more in period 5. Which part of the country is going to want to add Texas to the country? The South.
Oh, the South.
Because the Missouri Compromise limited where slavery can go. Can slavery go up here? No. Can slavery go here? Yeah. No, it's a different country. So the South's going to want to add Texas. Where are most of the Democrats from? The South. So he's going to piss off his own party by opposing adding an independent Texas to the nation. And again, he's not Jackson. One fun fact, we have a little war with Canada during his presidency. It's called the Pork and Beans War. or the Aroostook War. Or the Lumberjack War. It's got a lot of names. Nobody really dies. But we have some angry lumberjacks swinging axes at each other. It's another conflict with us and Great Britain. Over here, guys. Oh, wait. About the border right here. Between northern New York and Massachusetts, where our country starts, where it stops. We have a little conflict. It's not a big conflict. I think at most there's one casualty in this conflict. And it's finally settled with the Webster. First name on him? Daniel Webster, yeah. He's now serving as Secretary of State. The Webster-Ashford Treaty finally settles the border over there. So, not that exciting, but it's cool. It's a cool picture to see lumberjacks swinging axes at each other. So Van Buren's presidency is not very inspiring, besides the fact that he gets blamed for a lot of Jackson's problems. Under him is when the Indians get removed. Whose fault was that? Who gets to deal with it? Van Buren. The economy collapses. Whose fault was that? Who gets to deal with it? There we go. So, in 1840, the Whigs are going to do something really smart. It's called the Log Cabin Campaign. Let me explain to you why this is a smart thing. What was the Federalists' big problem when they started losing power in the late 1700s? They wouldn't expand. They wouldn't try to appeal to people. They were too elitist, too up here. The Whigs learned from that, and they're going to do what it's in your reading it was, and it's in the lecture as well. What I call, because I like sports analogies, they're going to steal a play from the Democrats' playbook. They're going to take their guy, William Henry Harrison, looks kind of like Dracula. William Henry Harrison, and they're going to say, oh my God, he is a war hero. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Who else was ran as a war hero? Ah, he was raised on the frontier in a log cabin. Who else is from the frontier? Jackson. And he's a man of the people. Is he any of those things? No. Remember when I taught you the War of 1812 and I brought up one random conflict with the natives? The Battle of Tippecanoe? And I said it'll be a thing later? Now, William Henry Harrison is known as the hero of Tippecanoe. Also, fun fact, also a battle that doesn't really matter to the war's outcome. Sound familiar? Yeah. Who else was that? Jackson. And they're going to run this idea of the log cabin and hard cider campaign. They're going to say, here's William Henry Harrison. He's a man of the people. He was raised in a cabin. He grew up drinking hard cider. Like, cool. So he's uneducated and he's an alcoholic and you want us to vote for him because of that? Not in spite of that? Of course. America. So they're going to run him and they're going to make a cool slogan. Remember the Jackson slogan? All around the hickory tree? Yeah. And they're going to say, Tippecanoe and Tyler too. He's vice president. So by branding him as a war hero, as a man of the people, they're going to say, look, common people, we're just like you. Vote for us. We're the Whigs. Whigs beat the Democrats at their own game, at appealing to the common man, at making it about the person, not the issues. Tippecanoe and Tyler too. On one of my favorite mugs that I own at my desk, my presidential campaign, there it is, Tippecanoe and Tyler too. Poor Tyler's like, I don't get a nickname? I'm just John Tyler? But it's good advice, never trust a man. Never trust a man with two first names. John Tyler, that's two first names, can't trust him.
Greg Winchell.
Yes, Winchell's a very famous first name.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Winchell. So, this shows that these elitist Whigs are able to adapt their platforms to try to appeal to more people. Here's my point. Here's a campaign poster for the time. If it looks like democracy, if it smells like democracy, if it tastes like democracy, it must be democracy. We have Harrison and Tyler with the American flag. We got the log cabin. We got his keg of cider. And here he is, a man of the people, out in nature. He's not elitist. He's a war hero. He's Tippecanoe. Vote for him. And it works. Look at that. Hey, they beat Van Buren 234 to 73 in the total vote.
Just by saying that?
no, it's not just that. Why else do they win? Why else do they win? What?
They hate Van Buren.
They hate Van Buren. The Whigs campaign isn't that good. Harrison's not that good. Everybody just hates Van Buren. Like you caused the Panic of 1837, bro.
Sort of topic. When is Florida added?
Yeah, that's what
Soon.
Wait,
You need to have enough people to be a state. This was in 1819. This is still Spain.
wait, so like in Van Buren's presidency, when they're trying to add Texas and or
Florida's already in our country. It's just in our country as a territory, not a state, because not enough people live there yet. Remember the Northwest ordinances? It's a territory until you have enough people to become a state.
so once there are enough people,
You apply to become a state.
How's that?
What?
How's that gonna work?
What do you mean?
Like there would be 2 more southern states.
We'll get there. Don't worry, we have a lot more northern states to add to. Good question. So it works. Part of it's the campaign. Part of it's the common man appeal. Part of it's the whole Tippecanoe and Tyler too. But like Cortez says, a big chunk of it has nothing to do with the Whigs. Everyone just hates the Democrats because of the Panic of 1837. So in 1840, his image is killed by the financial crisis. The Whigs choose William Henry Harrison, old Tippecanoe. They say, as if it's a good thing, he's built in a log cabin and he's being raised on hard cider, not milk or juice like a regular baby, but liquor. Way to go, America. We pick Harrison. Harrison wins the electoral vote. The era of Jackson is over, and Harrison dies 32 days later. It's almost like if you elect somebody who says, I was raised in a cabin on alcohol, he's not the healthiest of person and he might die soon. Almost like that. The Whigs finally get their president. We finally can counter Jackson. He makes a long inaugural speech in front of everybody in Washington, D.C. It's freezing cold. It's raining. He's a man of the people, so he refuses to put on a big overcoat. So he gets pneumonia and dies.
Wait, is that how he actually died?
Yeah. Swear to God. It's hilarious. He dies of pneumonia because he gave such a long inaugural speech in the cold by being stubborn and refusing to put a jacket on because he's a man of the people. And the people don't wear jackets. I told you, the common man is stupid. So, his vice president.
I can't wait to be president.
His vice president is who? John Tyler. Now, John Tyler is a former Democrat who left the Democratic Party to run with the Whigs. Now he's president. The Democrats don't trust him because he left. The Whigs don't trust him because he's not Whiggish enough. He's not a full Whig. So for the next 3 years and 333 days, we have a president who has no party. He's not a Democrat. I guess he's a Whig in name, but he's not a Whig in policy. He's just there for the next 3 years and 333 days, just kind of minding his own business. Like, yeah, I'm president. What's up? He doesn't do anything because he has no party. At the very end of his presidency, he'll sneak in annexing Texas. But we'll get there at the very beginning of period 5. And then we have Zachary Taylor as the president of the Whig, and then the Whigs die. So the Whigs have their big moments, and they literally shit it away with pneumonia. So, we're done. Yep. Terry Taylor has 2 first names. So, we're done. The Whigs are done. But take a minute, please, and identify in your response. There's no formers left in class. Compare the two. I want you to focus a lot on the similarities and make a little qualifier about the difference. Because if this was an AP prompt, you could spend your entire essay talking about similarities only and still get full points. So, how are these 2 party systems similar? And if you want to add a little disclaimer at the end for a difference, go for it. Yes. How's your hair looking? Terrible. You know what actually looks worse than your hair?
Hurry up!